We have looked at theft. Now you have to identify for me the ingredients of extortion. This is this section here. And tell me if anyone can explain the meaning of this sense, extortion. I've put certain things in red for you to gather the ingredients. So somebody please explain what will be extortion. How is this different from theft? First read the whole section.
Basic difference.
Yeah, first read the whole section.
Yeah. Extortion, whoever intentionally puts any person in fear of an injury to that person or to any other.
Nirupam, read it with proper emphasis. Which are the words which will need interpretation and which will have an impact on the offense? Put emphasis on those words.
Extortion, whoever intentionally puts any person in fear of any injury to that person or to any other and thereby dishonestly induces the person to put in fear to deliver to any person any property or valuable security or anything signed or sealed which may be converted into a valuable security commits extortion.
So, okay, are there any words which are new to you?
No, ma'am.
What there is? Valuable
security.
So section 30 tells us what is a valuable security. Because all other words we have already read in one or the other context. But this is a new word, new phrase we have got here. Section 30 says valuable security. The words valuable security denote a document which is or purports to be a document whereby any legal right is created, extended, transferred, restricted, extinguished, or released, or whereby any person acknowledges that he lies under legal liability or has not a certain legal right. So if your sister signs a paper saying after your father's death, she says, I will not claim any share in this property. Is that a valuable security?
Ma'am, it is.
And which clause is applicable here? Which one? Document whereby any legal right is it created? No. Extended? No. Yeah, restricted. A legal right has been restricted, has been actually extinguished, or it has been released. I am saying I will not claim it anymore, so I am giving up my right. So these are the clauses which will make this fine. These are, so if I say I owe you such and such amount, is that a valuable security?
Ma'am, it is because can be claimed in the court. And
which phrase is which part of this definition is extracted, is attracted?
And created. Legal right is created.
Was it acknowledging that he lies under legal liability?
Yes, ma'am.
So we understand what is now valuable security. So so what is the action required under this case? What is the nature of property involved here?
It should be something immovable, tangible, and
valuable
to the person.
Where does it say? No, where does it say? Any property. It can be tangible, intangible, it can be movable, immovable. So the subject of extortion can be any property. That's where the emphasis is on any. In theft, we had very categorically limited to tangible, movable property. Here, we are talking about any property. Then what was the keyword there in distinction to here? There was moves. Here, to deliver. Now there it was without consent. Now here what it is?
Out of
By
fear.
fear. By fear. So how do you create fear?
By giving threat or something that I will do
So
this to you, I'll do
there's a
that to something.
there's a fear of instant injury to oneself. What is the fear? In fear of any injury. So what is the meaning of the word injury?
Any physical harm that can be
No, we have a
caused to.
definition. No, we are forgetting definition. 44 or what is the section number? I think 44.
And the word
44.
injury
Section
denotes
44.
any harm,
Yeah.
whatever
Illegally
Whatever.
caused to any harm, mind, reputation, or property.
So four kinds of injury to property. And the property, so when you say reputation, what is the nature of the property? Reputation? What is the nature of property? When you say
Intangible, ma'am.
reputation, intangible, immovable.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it immovable or not?
No, ma'am.
Intangible property. So certainly reputation is not subject matter of theft, but it can be subject matter of extortion. So when we are, and this was, I'm emphasizing these words also, when you compare the nature of harm which was to be caused in case of rape, they did not use the word injury, they said physical harm of death or hurt. These are the only two harms left mentioned in case of rape. But here we are saying if someone has put another person intentionally under fear of any injury to that person, the other one is to any other. What were the comparative words used in case of rape? Thirdly, any other person in whom she is interested. So here there's no such limitation. So one, the nature of harm which is to be caused under fear is of four kinds: body, person, mind, reputation. Then it is either to that person or to somebody else, anybody else, thereby dishonestly, so therefore employing unlawful means, induces. It makes that person to do it. I'm not snatching it. If I snatch it, it is not the offense of extortion. I am making that person, I'm inducing, I'm forcing, I'm persuading that person, so put in fear to deliver. So the person has to physically give it to me, give it to the offender, to any person, any property. So any property would be any of the range of properties we are concerned with. So either the property means that it is in existence, but the paper, if I take a signature on a blank paper from somebody, is that a property? In the contrast to valuable security.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
that can be used against him in the court of law. And you can write anything in that, and
Yeah,
that
so
will
this
be
is
valid.
anything signed or sealed which may be converted into a valuable security. So it may not be, it's a blank, it's a signature on a blank paper. This is a document which can be converted into a valuable security. So if I have made somebody to sign on a blank paper about putting a knife onto that person's neck, have I committed extortion?
Yes, ma'am. There is a fear of injury to the self,
Hmm.
and uh, the signature has been delivered out of the fear which has been induced to him. So it satisfies both the
Yes.
conditions.
And I have used unlawful means to cause unlawful loss to him or unlawful gain to myself or to somebody else. So each one of the ingredients are satisfied. We should also very quickly look at robbery so that we understand the distinctions. Robbery is of two kinds. This can be either in case of theft or it can be from extortion. So what were the distinction between theft and extortion? First, we said in theft, the nature of property is only movable property. In this one, it is the offender who is moving the property. This is also without consent. Extortion is also without consent, but in that one, consent has been obtained, which is frustrated, of course, by force. There is no force involved in theft. In case of extortion and theft, so one is the offender himself moves the property, and it has to be movable property. In case of extortion, it can be any nature of property, but the person has been induced to give that property. Or if I put a gun on somebody says, give me your valuables, what is the offense?
Extortion.
When I give the valuables myself, this is extortion. When I say, I write a letter saying, unless you give this property to me, unless you give me 50,000, I'm going to put up your nude photos, which I have with me on the website. And the person gives me extortion. So whether it is the actual property, 50,000 rupees, or say, unless you give me your signatures. So she gives me the signatures on a blank paper. The threat is still the same. So either it is physical injury to that person, I'm going to stab you unless you sign on this paper, or I'm going to publish your paper in the reputation. So injury is a wider word used here in comparison to rape. So if I say I'm going to kill this boy unless you give me the money, and this person gives the money in order to save the life of the child, it still is extortion because the consent has been obtained by putting that person to putting under fear of injury. I'm going to publish your daughter's photographs in compromising position with me unless you give me the money. So the father gives the money.
Extortion.
Of the daughter. Therefore, he has, under fear of that one, has delivered the property. He makes the father sign a blank paper. Again, makes the father to deliver a valuable security. So very categorically in this one, we were saying nature of property can be anything and it has to be delivered by the person. In case of robbery, theft will become robbery if some danger, imminent danger. Yeah.
Ma'am, can you give us an example of mental injury, or how can that come to action?
Suppose I say I'm going to, no, I have kidnapped your daughter. So unless you give me money, I will not release her. Mental injury to this woman. But the daughter is safe, I am safe, everybody is safe. So what is the injury?
And she has the fear that they might do something to her.
It's a mental fear, no? And there is no loss of reputation in that example. So here theft is robbery if in order to the committing of the theft or in committing the theft. In order of the committing of the theft, I say, okay, now you have opened this house. I'm putting the gun on your shoulder, open your lock. Of theft, or in committing the theft, or in carrying away or attempting to carry away property obtained by theft, the offender. So when he is running away with the property, he is moving, the house owner wakes up. So then he is trying to run away. The offender for that and voluntarily causes or attempts to cause. So he gives a stab wound to the owner and runs away. So now what has he done? He has committed assault, he has committed grievous hurt or hurt to the person in order to run away with the property. What is the offense? What is the offense?
Can you repeat the situation? I couldn't get it.
The man, the thief was now has collected all the property in my house and was going out. At that point of time, I heard the noise and woke up. And he saw me coming. So he threw a knife at me, caused injury to me, and ran away with the property. What is the
Robbery,
offense is
ma'am.
committed? Robbery.
Ma'am,
Because
robbery.
which part of the section is involved here? In
Ma'am, in
carrying
carrying
away,
away.
carrying away the property obtained by theft. The offender for that end voluntarily causes any person hurt. He has committed the offense of robbery. So he found me, I got up. So then he both, I started shouting from my window. I saw him going away with my property. So he bolted me inside. He has called wrongful restraint. Attempts to cause any person death or hurt or wrongful restraint. So in this case, he has not caused me hurt, he has called me wrongful restraint. He had wrongfully now put me into the house, into the room, bolted me inside the room. So any of these, the fear of instant death or instant hurt. She says, if don't report for 10 minutes, otherwise I will kill you. He has not caused me, but he has caused the fear of instant death. Immediately I'll shoot you if you make a noise. So this person doesn't make a noise. So no actual harm is caused, but I kept quiet because I was put under the fear of instant harm. He has committed robbery. And these are all cases where he is moving the property himself. When he does the same thing by making me do it, extortion, then it becomes robbery. If the offender at the time of committing the extortion, in the presence of the person put in fear, commits the extortion by putting that person in fear of instant death, instant hurt, instant wrongful restraint to that person or to some other person, and by putting in fear, induces the person so put in fear then and there to deliver up the thing extorted. So the only difference in the two scenarios, both the cases, my property is gone. In one case, he moves the property by putting me in fear and making me not do anything or causes hurt to me in order to take away my property. In this one, he gives all that fear and makes me give it to him. So in all those cases, so if I give a letter saying that if you do not give me this property by tomorrow morning, I'm going to publish something, some scandalous information about it, which is true. So in that case, I give the money. Will that be extortion or will that be robbery?
Extortion, because fear that
because there was no fear of instant injury. So if the fear is instantly, if you do not give money, I am going to kill your son. Extortion or robbery?
robbery.
Robbery, because there is putting some other person in fear of instant death. The offender is said to be present if he is sufficiently near to put the other person in fear of instant death or instant hurt or of instant wrongful restraint. So it's not me. No, I'm saying, okay, here's your son's voice. I have kidnapped him. I'm going to kill him unless you deliver 50,000 rupees at such and such place. So in that case, it is robbery of the money. The offense of kidnapping, etc., all there. That's a different offenses altogether in addition to robbery. But the fact of I have now given him that money which is demanding because of putting my child in fear of instant death. So here's just again in the films, the villain is running away, having forcibly taken the heroine in his, he's seizing the arm of the woman. He's got a gun on the other hand, and he's saying, "Okay, now move this cash box also to my car." So he takes the woman along, and the cash box is also put in his car. What is the offense he's committing?
Robbery.
Robbery. So this is the robbery through the route of extortion. If he puts the heroine under fear and his persons, his whole other goons, they move the cash box. What is the offense?
Robbery.
It is still robbery, but through
Robbery
the route of
through theft.
theft. Through the route of theft. So robbery can happen either through the route of extortion or through the route of theft, depending on whether the movement is taking place by the action of the accused themselves or it is the action of the victim. If it is the action of the victim because of which the property has transferred, then it is extortion. If it is by the action of the accused, it is theft. Okay. So in this slide, we need to look at Jadu Nandan. Anyone who has read Jadu Nandan? Very small, short case.
Ma'am, I have read it.
You have read, you will keep quiet. The others let's just read the facts. I used to read the facts and then let the other people decide whether it is offense of extortion or not.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, so in this case, Jadu Nandan and some of his accomplices basically restrained a person and forcibly took his thumb impression on a blank piece of paper and of another person by the name of Shiv Nandan on 3 blank pieces of paper. And this was the only thing that happened. So they had basically forced him to give the thumb impression on the paper, and then it went into the court of law whether this would come under the offense of.
Yeah, so initial para says Narayan Dusad and Shonandan Singh, respectively of a landlord, were returning after the inspection of some fields when the 2 petitioners and others came out of a her and assaulted them. Petitioner Alak gave bhala blow to Narayan on the right leg, then other people assaulted him with lathis. Petitioner Jadu Nandan and others then assaulted Shionandan. Jadu Nandan, after this, forcibly took the thumb impression of Narayan on 1 piece of blank paper and of Shionandan on 3 blank papers. So they were charged under 384, which is the punishment for the offense of extortion. No, it is.
Why is it not robbery? Because
No,
there was
it is.
fear of.
No, section numbers.
Theft, I think. They were charged for theft.
384 is extortion. They were charged for extortion.
324, right?
384, na? 324 bhi hai, but the bigger charge is 384. 324 because of the bhala blows and all.
Ma'am, how do we distinguish between the 2, robbery and extortion? I'm getting really confused.
Look at section 383 and 390, second part. This is extortion is robbery. And forget about robbery. At this point of time, we want to focus only whether this amounts to extortion, because it can amount to robbery only if it is extortion or if it is theft. So we are asking you whether on these facts, either the offense of robbery, either the offense of theft or extortion made out or not.
Yes, ma'am, it was extortion because the fear was induced and they had to sign the paper and deliver it to me. So it was extortion.
No, let's go one by one. Whether the person has been put in fear of any injury.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. To himself, in that case, other person not involved. Has he dishonestly induced that person? So dishonestly, yes, he is using unlawful means by showing force and beating him up. Has he delivered to that person any property or valuable security?
His signature on a blank paper.
Yeah, so he has created a valuable security. But was it delivered by him?
Yes, ma'am.
Delivery kind. Yeah, what is
signed.
No, this is where the technical language comes into force. Jadu Nandan forcibly took the thumb impression. हाँ, अभी ये मेरा थंब आपने पकड़ा और ऐसा जबरदस्ती मेरा हाथ उस पर टिका दिया, दिस इज forcibly taking. अदर वन इज आपने यहाँ मेरा बंदूक रखा है और मैंने अपने आप के लगा दिया. These two have been made a distinction. I was not going to put even with that gun on my hand. I was not putting this. So उसने मेरा हाथ खींचा और हाथ को जबरदस्ती मेरे अंगूठे को कागज पे लगा दिया. This is what they are saying. After this forcibly took the thumb impressions of Narayan on one piece of paper, blank paper. So other cases that refer to is where the interpretation was that he himself put the thumb impression under fear. उसने बोला एक्सटॉर्शन है, या जब हमने उसको फोर्सिबली हाथ लेकर के लगवा दिया तो बोला नहीं, he has not been induced to give the valuable security, and therefore it is not extortion, and if it is not extortion it cannot be robbery. It can be only if it is theft. So why it is not theft in this case? अभी तो उसने खुद ही मेरे से ऐसा हाथ खींच के लगा दिया. Why is it not theft?
It was not taken
this-
out of the possession of the person.
प्रॉपर्टी कौन सी इन्वॉल्व है, कौन सी मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी इन्वॉल्व है? Whether my thumb impression is movable property?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, in theft, there is no element of force.
नहीं, element of force तो है, element of force तो है, so therefore it could have been robbery if either this action amounted to theft or it amounted to extortion. Extortion हुआ नहीं because I have not delivered, I have not been induced to deliver any property. It has been forcibly taken from me. If at all, no, whatever has happened is a forcible action on their part. So, but what has been taken from me is my thumb impression. Whether thumb impression is the movable property.
No, ma'am.
इसीलिए ना, तो इसे theft पे नहीं हो सकता. It is not theft, it is not extortion, it cannot be robbery. It has to be one of the two in order to become robbery. जैसे हमने कहा था ना पहले, murder तभी होगा when culpable homicide है. Here also robbery तभी होगी whether it is either theft or it is extortion. Only then it can amount to robbery. If it is not, if it is neither theft nor extortion, it can never be robbery. It may be some other offense. इसमें assault हो जाएगा, इसमें actually only assault ही किया है 324. So जो forcible आपने action लिया, sorry,
thumb is not a movable property, but thumb impression is a movable property. It's like any signature, like in checks and all, they are movable property. They can be taken from one place to another.
देखो थंब इम्प्रेशन वाला कागज मुझसे छीन लिया, वो तो प्रॉपर्टी ले ली, पर कागज तो वो अपना ही लाए थे, मेरा थंब इम्प्रेशन ले लिया.
And thumb impression can be taken.
उन्होंने ये भी कहा है कि it is nowhere mentioned that the paper was taken out of his possession. पेपर भी वो अपना ही लाए थे. So this one in PLT 5881, Justice McPherson upheld the conviction after pointing out, however, that it had been found as a fact that the petitioners intentionally put the victim in fear of injury to himself and thereby dishonestly induced him to place his thumb impression upon certain piece of paper. There is no such finding in the present case. They say that they have forcibly taken, so it has not been that I placed the thumb impression myself. If I placed the thumb impression myself, they say it amounts to creating a valuable security forcibly taken. And I've been induced to give that. So this is, for me, I find it very strange, but this is how the technicality of law operates. You have to look at the language. I must hold that the offense of extortion is not established. The learned advocate has suggested that in the event this may be a case of robbery, but it has not been asserted or found that the papers were taken from the victim's possession. It seems to me that on the finding, the offense is no more than the use of criminal force. So if the paper were in his possession and his impressions were made, then there's a valuable security which has been now taken away. But then because the paper were not in his possession, the judge says, I cannot say it was a case of robbery through the area of theft as well. So the next one is the Sekhar versus Arumugam. So this is a hypothecation case. And we all know that when we buy these finance categories, you buy a vehicle and you agree with the financing body that you will pay installments. And if you do not pay installment, it can be, your property can be taken away. So he had purchased a lorry and did not pay the installments. So the company, the bank, I think, who are the persons? Bank
Bank of Madura.
So Bank of Madura took possession of the lorry. He says it is a case of theft. What do you think? And the term of the hypothecation was that in case if he fails to make the payment as of the installments, the lorry can be taken by. The petitioner defaulted in payment of the monthly installments, and because of this, the bank seized the lorry. The petitioner filed petition, and after petition, lots of things are done. The bank continues to be the owner of the lorry or not is the question. Whether when it is purchased on these terms, the paper, he said, the papers are in my name, the lorry is in my name, and therefore it is my property, and the bank cannot take it.
The bank can take it because they are exercising their power in lawful means. He has not given the money for it. He has not paid the installment, and bank can take the property, and it is not dishonest. It is a very lawful means of taking the property away from him.
Judges say when the respondent, the bank has been empowered to seize the lorry under clause 14E, cannot be said the respondent had committed theft of the lorry when the petitioner defaulted in the payment of the installments. The bank had. So what is the bank not done? It is not dishonestly. It is not employing the unlawful means. They were lawfully authorized to do the action that they have done. The last case we will talk about today is Kasam Gowda. Very distressing case in the sense that it's a husband who tells his wife, takes his wife for going to some other village or for some other purpose, a marriage and all. So she was having her jewelry on her. So in the jungle, what does he do? 10 days after their marriage, he took her to Baroda Border Forest under the pretext of going to a wedding to a friend. He threatened to kill her unless she parted with all her ornaments. This is the prosecution story. The wife, finding no other option, removed all her jewelry, valued at around 11,000 in the case of 1997, and handed the same over to the accused, who wrapped the same in a handkerchief and put it in his pocket. Thereafter, it is alleged that the accused assaulted her with a big stone, whereupon Bhagyamma screamed, the wife screamed. The accused continued to assault her with his fist, and seeing two other persons coming there, he ran away. So what do you think are the offenses for which he can be charged? Convicted or not is a separate thing. But first of all, what are the offenses on whose conviction will happen if he is able to prove? So assuming this is the complaint, what are the offenses made out?
First of all, it is an offense of extortion because the fear was induced in her, dishonest means were employed, and she had to part with her valuables, which was delivered to him willingly. So it was under the pretext of extortion. Secondly, it was robbery because there was an instant threat to life. I have to see the.
Very good, Nirupa. It was certainly a case of she was induced to part with his ornament under fear of instant injury, and actual injury were also caused to her. So therefore, in the case, of course, the original charge was also attempt to murder, but that has not been convicted. Later on, he has not been convicted for this, but he has certainly been convicted for grievous hurt, extortion, and robbery. So robbery in this case through the route of extortion. So he says, I'm the husband, I'm entitled to keep her ornaments. What will be your answer to that? I'm not just a stranger, I'm a husband.
Ma'am, Stridhan is something which by law is given to the woman, and it remains in her possession, and it is upon her whim that how she will use it. It is never on the possession of the husband. The Stridhan that she gets on marriage or from her family, whatever privilege she has, there is no possession of husband in there.
Yeah, so husband keep it in good faith and under trust. He cannot force her to part with that property. So he was not doing a lawful activity when he forced her to part with the jewelry. Another argument he raised was that she has later on married. So she was actually unhappy, and it is a false complaint. She wanted to get out of the marriage because she was very unhappy, and therefore she is framing the husband. Anyone who has read the case, what have the judges said to that one?
Ma'am, judges said still if she is not happy. First of all, they disagreed with this contention, and but they said that if it is so also, then also the act done by the husband, that like he has extorted her for taking, or has thrown a stone at him, which caused a serious injury. That was one of the rib was fractured. So that would not be means judges said it like in diplomatic way कि अगर ऐसा है भी तो भी वो liable तो है ही, because उसने उसको मारने की कोशिश की.
So they found that the evidence was very much there to support. She has said he had kept it in his wrapped up in a handkerchief that was found. A broken bangles, etc., were found on the place. So the circumstantial evidence, because again, this is an instance where only two of them are there at the time the things were happening. Other people came at a later on, which is screened. So the same thing happened in case of rape also. It is her statement vis-a-vis the statement of the other. So here it is a wife who is making allegations against the husband. But in this case, the judges have not doubted her testimony, as it is supported by other evidence as well. And the fact that she has remarried later on says that maybe because of this action itself. And there has been nothing. It has been just thrown that she was unhappy and therefore it's a false statement. There's been nothing presented to the court to say she was unhappy. He summarized that this is the clearest indication of the fact that she has remarried, that Bhagyamma was not happy with the marriage and desired to put an end to it, which was why she has framed the accused. And the judge says, we have carefully scrutinized the evidence and we find that nothing has been brought in the court to indicate that Bhagyamma was not happy with the marriage at the time when it took place, or that she had other intention for that, or for that matter, that she desired to marry some other man. In the absence of any such material, merely because she was subsequently divorced, she has subsequently divorced the accused and remarried, would not necessarily indicate that she was hostile to the accused at the time of the incident, and that she would go to the extent of fabricating serious charges against him if these were not true. I mean, regard to the seriousness of the matter and the fact that the accused not only threatened to kill Bhagyamma, but also took away all her ornaments, could have been a very valid and possible ground for her having wanted to thereafter put an end to this marriage. We therefore is unable to discredit Bhagyamma's statement. So here you can again see that how there was an effort to say that she was telling a lie, but the judges did not believe that because there were other evidence also there. And they have given they've examined the whole allegation, that was there a possibility of a false case. Somebody was asking the evidence question, that how do the judges determine who is telling the truth? So these are some indicators there to that extent, that how the judges weigh the full circumstances, statements by different persons on the incident, about the incident, soon before and soon after the incident, to determine what is the most probable thing which would have happened. And if this is supported by the evidence and there's nothing presented to the contrary, the judges then take it as having it. We'll stop with that today. And tomorrow we take up the other 3 offenses. We have to, we'll take 2 tomorrow, and then cheating lastly, and then we will do a comparison on all these: theft, extortion, criminal misappropriation, breach of trust, and cheating. These are the 4 remaining things that we need to do. Tomorrow we take up the case of J.M. Desai, along with these 2 offenses, criminal misappropriation and breach of trust. So I would suggest please read the relevant sections on this one, which are breach of trust is 403, and misappropriation is 405 is criminal breach of trust, 403 is dishonest misappropriation property. So I would want you to read the sections before the class, read the illustrations, so that we can do a little faster understanding. Read your J.M. Desai case. But day after tomorrow, very interesting, no, not day after, but on 17th, very interesting case. You must read Sri Bhagwan Maharaj, and also Akhil Kishore Ram. Very, very interesting cases, very common categories of cheating as well. So we'll look at those cases. What was the case on attempt? We were looking at Abhinandan Mishra earlier, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Abhinandan Mishra is cheating. Okay. So he was saying it is cheating, and he was held for cheating, but saying it was attempt. Okay. So we will look at these 2 offenses tomorrow, 403 and 405, along with J.M. Desai. And if you have any leftover doubts on these 3 offenses we have looked at today, but okay, dacoity is simpler. It is only saying when robbery is committed by 5 or more. That's the only difference. If 5 or more people commit the offense, then it is the offense of dacoity. Where is it?
Do we have the time enough to ask questions?
Today, I do not have a problem. I have time, but I think other people will just completely exhausted mentally. Why don't you do it tomorrow? Because I think when you come, you are more fresh. Everybody will be able to pay attention. The only difference between robbery and dacoity is that if it robbery is committed by 5 or more, and look at this is an example again where both in case of dacoity, the attempt to commit dacoity is also punishable, is given in the same offense, in the same one, and attempt of dacoity also. They commit or attempt to commit robbery. So the same section is dealing with both categories. The only difference between robbery and dacoity is that it is, if the robbery is committed by 5 or more persons, then in persons present and aiding such commission or attempt amount to 5 or more, every person so committing, attempting or aiding is said to commit dacoity. So they become unlawful assembly also. Therefore, each one of them who is present and is aiding is also liable for. If you are okay with asking the question tomorrow, we can take that up tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am, that's completely fine.